9 Soviet hikers died. This person was a KGB agent. The devil is in the details. The current state of Soviet nuclear technologies. Depending on where you live, winters in your region might be very cold and snowy. Imagine spending a few hours outside in winter without any shoes and a jacket. Most of you would not do it voluntarily, right? Now imagine doing the same thing on the top of the mountain where it's even colder and windier. In February 1956, 9 Soviet hikers were found dead on the Ural mountain Atar-10. The cause of their death is unknown to this day, and many people still debate what exactly happened on that night. Before you start thinking that the solution to this mystery is very ordinary, let me assure you, it's way more complicated and strange than you can even imagine. Just to intrigue you, I can tell you that nuclear weapons might be involved in this story. So let's get started. Today I'm going to tell you about probably the most mysterious hiking ever, during which 9 Soviet hikers died under mysterious circumstances. I'm going to tell you the whole story first, and then we will analyze some of the most popular versions of what happened. First of all, I would like to explain you where the name Dyatlov's Passage comes from. In February 1956, a group of Soviet hikers decided to make a trip to the Ural mountain Atar-10. Initially, a group consisted of 10 people. Most of them were affiliated with Ural Polytechnic Institute. The group was led by a 23-year-old radio engineering student, Igor Dyatlov, and his last name is exactly where this name comes from. One person from the Dyatlov's group survived because he got sick on the way to the mountain and refused to climb further. His name was Yuri Yurin, and after the incident, he dedicated the rest of his life to investigating what exactly happened on that tragic night. The Dyatlov group was supposed to send a letter to their sports club on February 12th after getting back from the mountain in order to confirm that they are alive and safe. After a few days without any notice from Dyatlov's group, the club management started worrying about hikers and decided to start the rescue mission. On February 26, the bodies of 9 people were found approximately a mile away from their tent. Most of the hikers were not wearing any warm clothes, and some even were barefooted. Just in case, if you don't know, the Ural Mountains are one of the coldest regions in Russia, and being high up in the mountains makes it even worse. The Soviet government conducted an investigation and concluded that young people died from the avalanche. Therefore, up until the collapse of the Soviet Union, it was the most popular and generally accepted theory. Due to hard censorship and the absence of freedom of speech, people could not dispute this theory. Even though a lot of people did not believe in it due to many strange details of the accident. Many years after the accident, in 2019, Russia reopened an investigation. Not surprisingly, the Russian government confirmed that Dyatlov's group died from an avalanche and no further investigation is needed. Again, people were not satisfied with this conclusion. Now I will explain to you why. According to the famous idiom, the devil is in the details, and the details are very important here. First of all, according to the medical experts, 6 people died from hypothermia and 3 died from physical trauma. This is really important, and I will explain to you why. One of the hikers was a young woman named Ludmila Dubinina, who died from external bleeding and severe chest trauma. Some scientists claim that it is possible to get this kind of physical trauma as a result of an avalanche. However, it still has to be very strong in order to cause so much damage. My primary argument for why it was not a result of an avalanche is that there are pictures of the footprints taken during the investigation. Allegedly, those footprints belong to the hikers and were made right before they passed away. Then I have a question for you. How is it possible that an avalanche can break someone's ribs but cannot sweep away someone's footprints in the snow? Some people claim that the avalanche happened earlier and the Dyatlov's group was running away from it. My counter-argument to this claim is that their tent was found and damaged approximately 1 mile away from the place where their bodies were found. The temperatures there are sub-zero and it is impossible that the snow just melted. By the way, it is worth it to mention that some experts believe that the tent was installed incorrectly and experienced hikers would never make such a mistake. Another popular belief is that Dyatlov's group was robbed and killed by local people called Monty. In my opinion, this theory is also incorrect for just one simple reason. The end goal of a robbery is to take all the valuable items. However, Dyatlov's group not only had almost all their belongings with them when their bodies were found, but also nobody even took their money. Consequently, I think that the robbery theory is incorrect and lacks strong evidence. Now we come to the most interesting part. We already discussed some of the most obvious theories and none of them seems to be correct. Therefore, we should dive into more unusual theories. Some people believe that Dyatlov's group was attacked by aliens or died from a missile attack. I'm not even going to discuss those theories for obvious reasons. However, I have a very unusual idea that is more possible than the aliens attack. One of the primary reasons why many people believe that this story is not as simple is that KGB stole all the diaries of the only person who survived, Yuri Yurin. At the same time, all the secret documents that are related to this case were not made available to the public to this day. Therefore, the Russian government is definitely hiding some really important details that could potentially damage the image of the USSR. We can conclude that something made Dyatlov's group run away from the tent. Most likely, they were attacked by something or someone, and it definitely was not a wild animal or an avalanche. As I mentioned before, Igor Dyatlov was the leader of the group and planned the trip ahead of time. For some reason, he decided to invite a new member of the team, a 40-year-old man who did not have any sports tourism or mountain climbing experience, Semyon Zolotaryov. Many people believe that this person was a KGB agent and that it was not a coincidence that he decided to take part in this hike. His real name was Semyon, however, he asked everyone to call him Alexander. It is extremely uncommon for Russian people to use this kind of nickname and most people just use their legal names. His biography is very strange and many people don't believe that it is real. According to Semyon, he was a World War II veteran who also worked at many different factories all around the country. It was very uncommon for Soviet people to move around so often and most people worked at the same factory their entire life. Why would a random 40-year-old man join a group of students interested in hiking? And what could be the motivation behind all this stuff? Or maybe a group of hikers were the witnesses of something they were not supposed to see or know. During that time, there was a military race between the USSR and the West. Both were trying to invent weapons that could provide the necessary superiority and allow one of the two to become a leader. Nuclear weapons had the potential to be this kind of weapon. Both had spies that helped to get information about the technologies the enemy is using and, for example, how many missiles they have. Surprisingly, during the investigation of Dyatlov's group case, the investigators decided to measure the radiation levels of their clothes. What's even more intriguing is that they concluded that their uniform had traces of radioactive contamination. Therefore, there is a theory that claims that Dyatlov's group was killed by foreign spies. Allegedly, Semyon Zolotaryov was going to meet some people at one of the Urals villages on the way to the mountain and sell them some of the Soviet military secrets. According to these versions, Semyon was approached by a random group of people in one of the villages on the way to the mountain and they had a really long conversation. However, during the meeting, some other members of Dyatlov's group noticed something strange about the people they met. For example, some people say that these random villagers had some foreign accents that were unusual for that region. This meeting raised suspicion among the members of the Dyatlov's group and Semyon Simeon decided to kill them in order to prevent him from being declassified. As a result, Simeon and those spies attacked Dyatlov's group at night and made sure that no witnesses were left alive. I know this theory sounds very strange and complicated, however, there are a lot of people who actually believe that this might be the most accurate scenario of what happened. They believed that Simeon was going to give spies a stolen radioactive device that could provide them with information about the current state of Soviet nuclear technologies. As a result, a group had traces of radioactivity on their clothes. Why would the Soviet government try to hide the information about the accident so bad? If the Soviet government admitted that Dyatlov's group was killed by some foreign spies, they would also have to admit that their defense system had some breaches and it was completely unacceptable. I can just provide you with a similar example. My family is from Ukraine and they lived in Kiev, not too far from Chernobyl. When the Chernobyl explosion happened, local people were not informed about it immediately, just because the Soviet government did not want to take responsibility for it and many people died from radiation. Therefore, I believe that it is possible that USSR was trying to hide this information too. The only obvious question you might have is, did Simeon take his own life? I have an explanation for this aspect too. According to pictures of Simeon's body, he had some tattoos which were very uncommon in USSR. The only group of people who had tattoos back then was prisoners, and Simeon never mentioned his criminal past and no one else knew about it. Now I have a question for you guys. Do you think the Soviet government could kill a random prisoner from a nearby prison and put their body at the crime scene? Let me know what you think about it in the comment section. What's even more interesting is that Simeon's mother claims that he has never had any tattoos. The last important aspect worth mentioning is that the investigation clearly lied about the number of cameras that Dyatlov's group had. From the pictures found at the crime scene, it becomes obvious that the group had at least 5 cameras, while police claim that there were only 4. Yuri Yurin, the only person who survived, confirmed that almost every member of the Dyatlov's group had a camera. Do you think the Soviet government didn't want us to see some of the pictures taken during the hike? Thank you so much for watching my video, I hope you enjoyed it. Please hit the like button and subscribe to my channel if you don't want to miss my future videos. I'm planning to make more videos like this one in the future. Also, right now you can see all my social media platforms on the screen. Feel free to check out my other content. Again, thank you so much for watching my video and stay safe.